All right, so let's cover the time session solver here. Blackbird, does have a scheduler built into it, but right, so this time session solver isn't always necessary, but as a matter of best practices, it is best to restrict your signals to the time of day that you actually want trading to occur, right? So in other words, if you only want to trade during RTH, then you should constrain your signals so that they only occur during RTH, right? Even though you can tell Blackbird, don't trade after hours, you know, best practices, say that, well, you should also limit your BloodHound signals as well, right? As a double check. Let me make some signals here we can work with here. Yeah, so let's do that, and let me grab a threshold solver. So let's see if I can squeeze the entire day. Yeah, great. All right, so we have signals, to work with here, right? During all periods of the day. So let's say we want to constrain our signals to only RTH, regular trading hours there. So here's our signals, and I'm going to add another add node like so. And now I'm going to set up our time session solver for RTH. So let's go into the session here. So there we go. So that pulls up our little scheduler menu there, and we can load one of NinjaTrader's, predefined trading hours here. So let's open up the list here. Right, you can see NinjaTrader already has all of these predefined trading hour sessions per all the different exchanges around the world. So let's go all the way down to the bottom to the U.S. equities, and there's RTH. Right, and there we have it. Right, 9:30 to 4, and we have a time zone. Right, so these are obviously Eastern time zones there. So now let's actually take a look at our time session solver here. Right. So we can see, right, we're getting an output. Let's go to the next day here. Right, we're getting an output during RTH there. So the solver, by default, this solver is identifying these blocks of time per the day of the week as well. Right? So if we wanted to, exclude Friday, you could actually delete Friday there. Right? So with so with the time session solver here, now let's connect that up. Right, so we have all these signals, which are 24 hours, right, a day. Connect the time session solver in. Now our signals are limited to our time session solver. So there we go. So that this is probably the primary and simplest use case for a time solver here, right? Now, let's see. I have been kind of asked in the past where somebody had very specific times of the day where they wanted a signal to occur. Yeah, so let's kind of take a look at that. Let's see. Actually, let's just put RTH in there. There we go. So let's add another time session solver here. There we go. Let's see. 9. All right. So we'll go from 9 to 9:30. Well, actually, let me set this one up here first. So let's set that up. 9 to 9:30. All right. So let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna start with RTH here, and I'm going to right click on the time scale here, and I'm going to set the resolution to 30 minutes here, like so. And now I can be lazy about this and just kind of drag these here instead of doing a bunch of typing there, right? I can just drag these there. So there is a 30-minute block of time, and you can double click on the green block there, and you can actually see. Actually, yeah, sorry, I'm gonna adjust that. Actually, 9:30 to 10. So yeah, and you can actually see the time in there. So if you wanted to just type it in, you can type in the exact time there as well. So yeah, instead of 9 to 9:30, I'll go 9:30 to 10. So let's do that. There we go, 9:30 to 10. All right, and let's take a look at the solver. Right, so there we go. So again, all right, we're on a 5-minute chart here. So there we go. So there would be like your first block of time there. And now let's make another block of time. Copy that. Paste it. And actually, let's go 11 to 11:30. There we go. 11 to 11:30. All right. So with this one, let's go into the session again. And I can just drag these down like so. Oh, actually, hold on. I need to change my resolution here first to 30 minutes. There we go. Now I can just drag these down. So there you go. And if I double click on one of these and open it up, there you go. 11 to 11:30. All right. Close that. And let me fix the name here. Take out that -1. There. All right, there we go. 11 to 11:30. Now, if I combine these together with an OR node, take a look, right? There's 9:30 to 10, and add that one in there, right? There we go. So there's our 2 blocks of time there. So if you only want to see signals, right, during specific blocks of time, right, that's how you can do that. So you can just take your different time solvers and connect them together into an OR node like that, and then you get your multiple blocks of time. Let's go back to yesterday, right? There we go. So, yeah. And so sometimes you might need to use a time session solver to reset something like a signal blocker, right? A function node. So let's see here. Let's see if I can come up with some kind of example here. So let's say you only wanted to get the first signal during the day. So so with this signal blocker, let's see. It's doing a little math in my head here. All right. So I think if I block for 600 bars, and I'm going to turn off all the resets there as well. And I'm going to enable block opposite signals as well. And let me turn on the active blocking here. So, all right, let's go way back here. Yeah, this is a good example. All right, so going back, let's see, what is this? Tuesday. So going back to Tuesday. Right, there we go. We have a long signal here. Right, like so. And hold on a moment. All right, I'm going to make a little adjustment. Let's increase the opacity. There you go. Now you can see that little green racing stripe a little better there. Right. So we get a long output, but then when the next day comes along, right, we don't have any output. And that's because our signal blocker is blocking. So that's another use case for a time solver here. So let me make another one here. I'm going to make another, or add another time session solver. And let's make a midnight reset here. Or actually, better yet, let's do something like a 9 a.m. reset. Yeah. There we go, right? Like half an hour before the market opens there. A 9 a.m. reset. So, let's go into our session here. And let's see, I'm going to set my resolution down to 5 minutes. There. And let's scroll down to, and I'm going to set this to Eastern time as well. There we go, Eastern time. There we go. So there's 9. And so since I set my resolution, right, remember I right-clicked and we cancel this, right? I right-clicked on the time scale and I set the resolution down to 5. So now, right, each little block here, each row and column, each cell, I should say each cell is a 5-minute block of time here. So if I double-click there, it's going to default to this 5-minute block of time here. So I'm just going to add this little 9 o'clock reset to each Monday through Friday. There we go. And let's put the time zone in there. There we go. All right. So there we go. So we can see our reset here. Right. So now let's take a look at our signal blocker here, and if I connect this into the reset like so, and then also I need to go into the signal blocker and I need to go into the resets here, and let's enable the reset on a signal, and there we have it. So let's kind of stretch this out a little bit, right? So remember, this little output here is coming from the signal blocker, right? We're using the actively blocking so we can tell when the signal blocker is blocking signals, right? And then we can see here that at 9 Eastern, the signal blocker is turned off, it's reset, and then it allows the next signal to come through. And so there's our first signal of the day, and then there's no more signals throughout the remainder of the day until we get to the next morning, right, at 9 a.m. the next morning, and then our next signal comes through, right? So you can use the time session solver, to reset a signal blocker, based on whatever time of day you want there. So maybe like this example here, where you're allowing signals between 9:30 and 10 and 11 and 11:30, right? This could also be used to reset a signal blocker, right? Or let's connect that up, and let me disconnect that. Yeah, going back to that example there, right? So we have a bunch of signals, right, throughout the day. If I connect this into the AND node, right, there we go. So now we have some signals between, or within these two 30-minute windows here, right? 9:30 to 10, 11 to 11:30. Right? So in this example, right, we're using the time solver to allow signals through at a specific time of day. And in this example, we're using the time solver to reset the signal blocker just before the market opens. Right? Yeah. So those are, the two use cases there. So you can use a time solver to allow signals only during a specific time of day, or you can use a time solver to like reset a function node. Let's see here. Let me go into the scheduler window here. All right, so let's kind of go over some of the basic editing functions here. Right. So as mentioned before, right, you can pick any of these predefined trading hour sessions from NinjaTrader, and then you can go in and modify them as you want, right? If you double click on a green block, right, you can go in and customize it there, or delete it. If you double click on a blank area, right, that'll actually add a new block of time there. So there we go. Add another one, right, so on and so forth. Right. Let's delete that and delete that one. And again, you can, right, there's some predefined time resolutions here that you can go to, right? So if you want to work in 15-minute blocks of time, we can change the resolution there, right? And that changing the resolution just simply allows you to just kind of double click and define something a little quicker there, right? So if I put this back to 60-minute or resolution, I can still double click, and you can see it's going to default to a 1 hour block of time, but I can type in there whatever I want. So I can put in a 1 minute block of time. And whoops, hold on, I want that AM. There we go. AM to AM, and there we have it, right? So this is, right, just a 1 minute block of time now. And lastly, you do have a time zone down there as well. So if you want to work with your local time zone, you can go and change that, to your local time zone, or whatever you want to do there. So this this editor window is pretty simple, pretty straightforward there. And let's see, lastly, we have two different outputs, right? So we have in session, right? So the in session is actually, I'm going to use this RTH one here. Disconnect that. Let's connect that in. All right. So the in session, let me connect that up there. Right. So the in session, as we look at the output here, right, we're getting an output. The in session is giving us an output that matches our blocks of time here, right? And then the not in session is just going to be the opposite, right? It's going to be the times that are outside this block of time, right? So there we go, right? We can see there. So if I set that to 0, set this to 1, right? It just reverses everything. So there we go. So now we're identifying, right, every bar that is outside of RTH. Right? So again, those two outputs are pretty self-explanatory there as well. So I'll just put the back to normal. There we go, like so. There. All right, so that does it for the time session solver. Yep, that's one of the simpler ones there. So Al is asking, yeah, so what if he wants to block out a period of time, say like on a news event? Yeah, is what Al is thinking here. Yeah, if there's some kind of news event coming along and he wants to block his signals for a period of time, half an hour to maybe an hour, during that news event and after that news event. Yeah, so if for example, if your news event is a regular weekly occurrence, right, then let's go into this RTH here. Let's open this up. So let's say for the oil inventory reports, right? I believe they come every Wednesday. I swear, I always forget if it's Tuesday or Wednesday, but right, the U.S. oil inventory reports are a weekly occurrence, right? It's either Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning. So if you wanted to, you could just boom, block that out. There you go, and go from whatever time you think is safe to start trading again, and just block that out there. So if I click OK, and let's see, here we go. So this is Wednesday. Yep. So here we go. So we can see, right, this little period of time is a little shorter than Tuesday there, right? Because the morning was clipped off there. Yeah. So if it's a weekly occurrence, right, that's easy to do. Let me change that. You could use the time solver. If your news event is random, then you're gonna need some special indicator that identifies that news event. And then, all right, so I'm going to use this time session solver to simulate a custom indicator, right, that is identifying when news comes in here, right? So yeah, right. So this time solver just gives us a signal at 9, right? So there we go. So we'll just pretend that this is some kind of customized news event indicator, right? And it gives us, that indicator gives us an output. Realistically, this would be actually a threshold solver reading that news event indicator. Right, that's what this would really be here. And then let's see here. We would take that. Well, hopefully your news event indicator will actually have a setting inside that indicator that allows you to specify a length of time that you'll get an output from that indicator, right? So hopefully, so really that indicator can do all the work for you. If it, in my opinion, any kind of news event indicator, should allow you to say put in like a custom period of time, like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and so this signal from that news event indicator, would carry on for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, right? Whatever period of time you set up with that indicator. And in which case, that would that indicator would do everything for you, and then you would just simply invert that threshold solver, right? And there you go, right? So as long as that indicator is outputting that, your news event happened, and then it also is including that period of time, past the news event that you want your indicator to output. So in other words, right, you'd have 30 minutes, a 30-minute period where, right, there's no output, but if your indicator doesn't have that ability, right, your indicator just doesn't have that ability, and it just gives you a single output at that time, then what you could do is you could take a signal extender and since we're on a 5-minute chart, right, if I wanted to block for an additional 30 minutes, I could set my signal extender to 6, like so, and we have to invert this, and there we go, right? So now we have this period of time here, right, where there's no output. And so if you right, so if you put, with the rest of your trading system signals, right, you connect this into the AND node, and there you go. Here, let me, there, right, so there's all of our random signals, and we can see, right, we have this blocked out period of time there. If I disconnect it, right, there we go, connect that in, bingo, there we go. So there's 2 examples of blocking your signals, based on some kind of news event there.